The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, totally. A complete media frenzy.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is a massive one. We are looking at the headline that basically stopped everyone in their tracks. Prince Harry's children finally reunite with King Charles after 4 years.
Right. Because, organizing a family reunion is stressful enough without having to negotiate with a literal government security committee.
Oh, for sure.
Usually you just send a text to a group chat, you figure out who's bringing the potato salad, maybe brace yourself for some minor awkwardness with your in-laws, and that is about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But imagine that before you can even confirm the date for this family dinner, you have to sign what amounts to an ironclad non-disclosure agreement.
Just to see your family.
Right. And you have to figure out a way to physically transport your kids to the house without being chased by a swarm of national press.
Suddenly it feels less like a holiday and a lot more like a high-stakes covert military operation. I mean, you are navigating layers of bureaucracy just to sit down in the same room.
Exactly. And today we are unpacking an event that played out exactly like that. We are untangling the highly secretive, incredibly tense reunion between Prince Harry, Meghan, their children, and King Charles.
It's a wild story.
It really is. We've pulled together a massive stack of recent sources for you. Today we've got reports on The Guardian, Sky News, CBS, OK Magazine, and more.
All the heavy hitters.
Yep. Our mission is to cut through the noise. We're going to map out this behind-the-scenes web of security disputes, strict ultimatums, and legal battles that nearly derailed this entire trip and discover how it finally came together behind closed doors. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So to understand the sheer gravity of this meeting, we really have to look at the timeline. Because before this Friday afternoon reunion, King Charles had only seen Harry, I think, one time in the last 2.5 years.
Wow. Just once.
Yeah, which was that brief transatlantic dash Harry made right after the king's cancer diagnosis was announced.
Right. I remember that. And as for the grandchildren, the king hadn't seen them in person since the late Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee back in the summer of 2022.
Exactly. So the stakes for this specific visit were just astronomical, both on a personal level and, on a highly visible public level.
But the way the public actually found out this was happening, it was straight out of a movie.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Picture this. It is Friday evening. Broadcaster Manish Bhasin is live on Sky News. He's delivering the regular evening headlines when he suddenly has to interrupt his own broadcast.
Live on air.
Live on air. He stops, looks at the camera, and announces breaking news. The King and Queen were, at that very moment, hosting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, along with their children, at Highgrove House in Gloucestershire.
And the shock value of that announcement was immense because for the entire week leading up to that moment, the narrative in the press was that this family trip had completely fallen apart.
Everyone thought Harry was in the UK completely alone.
Exactly. So to see how we arrived at that dramatic television interruption, we have to trace this back to January.
Right.
That is when discussions for this trip allegedly began. Harry was planning to come to the UK to mark the 1-year countdown for the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham.
Right. And according to the sources, he approaches the palace about bringing Meghan and the kids along, kind of floating the idea that the palace might help shape the visit.
The palace's response, however, came with a list of intense stipulations. Like, insiders are actually referring to these conditions as Megxit 2.0.
Which is such a loaded phrase.
Totally.
And reading through these sources, I was genuinely shocked by the strictness of the terms. I mean, it's like having to sign an NDA to go to Thanksgiving dinner.
It really is.
According to the reports, the rules were essentially no cameras, absolutely no jam flogging, which, by the way, is a brilliant British term for promoting products.
I love that term.
Right. No social media triumphalism, and absolutely zero leaking of private family conversations to be used later as, like, podcast or documentary fodder.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at how the palace has historically operated regarding its image. I mean, the institution of the monarchy has a zero-tolerance policy for the commercialization of the crown.
Yep.
That was the entire crux of the original fallout back in 2020 at the Sandringham Summit.
Right, because the late Queen Elizabeth established a precedent that you cannot represent the British monarchy while simultaneously pursuing commercial deals.
Exactly.
And obviously the commercial route in California led to the Netflix series, the memoir Spare, the Oprah interview, and all of those heavily featured private family grievances.
Yeah, they really did.
So the palace clearly views this new agreement as a protective measure. Harry had to accept that the moment his feet touch British soil, he is there strictly as a relative, not as an entrepreneur.
Right, so no soft launching of Meghan's new lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, while staying at a royal estate.
Exactly. And honestly, if you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead in this deep dive.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button. Because it is a fascinating shift in dynamics. For the last few years, Harry and Meghan have utilized noise as their primary source of leverage, interviews, podcasts, books.
Right.
And the palace has realized that their best countermeasure is silence.
Wow.
The terms were crystal clear. Silence is the only currency the palace will accept for access. One insider actually described it as a test.
A test.
Yeah. The message was that if even one post shot from this visit ends up on social media, this fragile attempt at a reset will be shut down immediately.
And that's not even the wildest part, because Harry agrees to all of this back in January. He signs on the dotted line of this Megxit 2.0 agreement.
Right.
But then we get to the week of the actual trip, and the entire thing is almost pulled out from under their feet at the 11th hour.
The whole thing almost fell apart.
The primary issue that nearly tanked this entire reunion was security. And I have to admit, I spent hours trying to map out the RDVIC security rules for you guys, and honestly, it is a labyrinth.
It's so confusing.
Like, how does a literal prince end up without a bed to sleep in at Buckingham Palace? How does a committee actually decide who gets a police escort and who doesn't?
Well, it is incredibly bureaucratic. RVIC actually stands for the Royal and VIP Executive Committee.
Okay.
It's an independent body under the Home Office, and it includes representatives from the Royal Household, the Cabinet Office, and the Metropolitan Police.
Right.
So when Harry stepped back as a working royal, he lost his automatic taxpayer-funded police protection. Decisions about his security are now made by RVIC on a strict, case-by-case basis.
And if you're wondering why Harry couldn't just hire his own private police force to bypass RVIC entirely, the UK actually has strict laws governing private security.
Very strict.
You cannot privately hire armed Metropolitan Police officers. Only official police forces can carry firearms in these scenarios, and you just cannot buy that level of state intelligence and armed protection.
Which puts him in a major bind, because RVIC ultimately denied Harry's request for automatic police protection outside of royal residences for this specific trip.
Oh, wow.
And the sources state Harry was absolutely distraught over this decision. He flat out refused to expose his children to being chased by photographers without that top-tier state protection.
Which makes total sense given the trauma surrounding the death of his mother, Princess Diana, and the paparazzi.
Absolutely.
But this RVIC denial directly caused the logistical nightmare that followed, because suddenly Harry is scrambling.
Right.
And this leads us to this bizarre secondary drama about where Harry is actually going to sleep.
The accommodation.
Yeah. I was reading the palace's briefing in The Guardian, and they claim Harry missed a deadline to secure a room at Buckingham Palace.
Right.
But looking at the timeline, that excuse feels incredibly flimsy to me. Am I crazy for thinking this is just bureaucratic stonewalling?
No, I mean, it definitely looks like a situation where protocol is being weaponized. According to the palace's narrative, Harry and his family were initially offered accommodation at a royal residence.
Okay.
The palace claims Harry turned it down on a Saturday, but then made a U-turn and formally accepted the offer on Sunday, asking if he could stay there alone for a single night, as Meghan and the kids' travel plans were reportedly in flux due to that security dispute we just talked about.
But by the time he accepted on Sunday, the palace claims it was too late to arrange the necessary security and staffing provisions. They are arguing that common courtesy requires a minimum level of notice to open up a royal residence.
Right, but Harry's side completely disputes that framing. His team says the delay in accepting the room was entirely because they were trying to sort out the complex private security arrangements after the RAVIC denial.
That makes sense.
But beyond that, Harry's side briefed the press that the offer wasn't just a missed deadline. They claim the palace deliberately withdrew the invitation because the king wanted to avoid any awkwardness or association with Harry ahead of an impending high court ruling.
Oh, wow. This entire accommodation dispute feels like two rival corporations communicating exclusively through their legal departments.
It really does.
In that kind of environment, a missed email or a missed deadline isn't viewed as an accident, right?
Yeah.
It is interpreted as a strategic maneuver.
Exactly. When two sides have zero underlying trust, every logistical hiccup becomes a deliberate offense.
Yeah?
The palace assumes Harry is being difficult with deadlines. Harry assumes the palace is abandoning him for PR reasons. The actual truth of the missed deadline matters less than what it reveals about their profound, lingering paranoia.
Which brings us to the actual week of the visit. Harry flies into the UK solo on Monday.
Right.
No wife, no kids. Just a prince without a palace room, bracing for a terrible week.
And that impending court ruling his team was allegedly so worried about. It arrives on Tuesday, and it delivers a massive blow.
A huge blow. Harry, along with several other high-profile figures, had brought a £50 million privacy case against Associated Newspapers Limited, which is the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday.
Right.
This was a monumental case in his ongoing war against the British tabloid press.
Harry's side accused the publisher of unlawful information gathering. They alleged the papers used private investigators to intercept voicemails, tap landlines, and obtain information by deception.
Which is a practice known as blagging.
Blagging, right. For example, calling a hospital and pretending to be a doctor to trick the staff into handing over private medical records.
Exactly. Now, the publisher strongly denied all these claims. But what is critical here is how the publisher fought the case in court.
Right.
They didn't just argue the merits, they argued that the cases were brought too late. They were outside the legal time limit, the legal statute of limitations.
Yes. And the judge ultimately agreed with the publisher, dismissing the claims because they could not be proven within that allowable legal time frame.
But the case wasn't necessarily thrown out because the judge said blagging never happened, but because the legal window to sue over it had firmly closed.
Exactly.
Losing this case on a technicality during this specific week cratered Harry's leverage. He is actively battling the press. He loses a massive £50 million lawsuit, and now he has to face his father's household while looking incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, picture his state of mind midweek. He has lost his taxpayer-funded security. He has been snugged by his father's household over a place to sleep. He has suffered a very public, very expensive legal defeat.
It's awful.
And the global media is universally reporting that his highly anticipated family reunion is officially dead in the water.
But later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming.
It is wild.
And stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because that is what makes the Friday afternoon twist so incredible.
Yeah.
Because despite all of those negative headlines, and despite the initial reports that Meghan and the kids scrapped their travel plans due to the REVX denial, they secretly flew in.
They did.
They executed a massive stealth operation.
Which is crazy. Moving a high-profile family of 4 internationally without a single leak or paparazzi photo is a phenomenal feat of logistics.
Incredible.
Meghan and the children arrived, presumably staying at a secure private location, while Harry fulfilled his public duties.
Because Harry is still doing the work.
Yeah.
On Friday, he is in Birmingham attending the countdown event for the 2027 Invictus Games. He finishes his engagements, gets in a car, and drives 90 miles south to Gloucestershire.
Right.
To Highgrove House, the king's private country estate.
The timeline of that afternoon is literally a masterclass in contrasting realities.
Here's where it gets really interesting. At the exact same moment, Harry is sitting down with King Charles, Queen Camilla, and his children behind the closed doors of Highgrove, taking active steps to heal a very deep rift. Prince William is playing in a charity polo match at Windsor.
It perfectly encapsulates the current state of the royal family.
It really does.
You have a father and son tentatively attempting to thaw deep freeze, with Charles stepping into his role as a grandfather to Archie and Lilibet. But the brotherly divide remains untouched.
The sources note that Harry hasn't seen William since the late Queen's funeral in September 2022. Reports from the Royal Observer indicate William is still furious over the contents of Harry's memoir, Spare.
Yeah, that book did a lot of damage.
There is zero indication that William has any desire to participate in any form of reconciliation.
Well, Charles, facing his own mortality with his cancer diagnosis, is seemingly highly motivated to mend fences. He wants to know his grandchildren.
Right.
But William, looking at the long-term future of the monarchy he will eventually lead, seemingly views Harry as an ongoing threat to the institution's stability. Those are two very different strategic imperatives.
For this specific weekend, though, the focus wasn't on William. It was purely on Charles, Harry, and the kids. And the defining characteristic of this meeting at Highgrove was the absolute total silence surrounding it.
What's fascinating here is that the silence is the ultimate victory for the palace's containment strategy. Think back to the Megxit 2.0 ultimatums we discussed earlier.
No cameras.
Right. No leaks, no social media. The fact that the palace officially confirmed the meeting took place, but explicitly stated that no photographs would be released and no additional details would be shared, proves the strategy worked.
Harry and Meghan adhered strictly to the media blackout rules. They didn't call a friendly journalist to drop hints about what the king said. They didn't post a blurry photo of Highgrove on Instagram. They kept it entirely private.
It demonstrates that the palace has successfully drawn a line in the sand. When the Sussexes are willing to play by the palace's unyielding rules of privacy, the door is actually open.
Which is why Sky News was able to break the story in such a dramatic fashion. It was officially confirmed by the palace machinery, not leaked by a tabloid intercepting a flight manifest.
Exactly.
A week that started with the noise of a security drama, a hotel rejection, and a £50 million court loss ended with the quietest, most private family milestone imaginable.
Navigating all of those hurdles just to spend a few hours together requires an immense amount of compartmentalization.
As we wrap this up, it really makes you think about our own lives.
Yeah.
We all navigate tricky family dynamics. We all have those moments where we have to swallow our pride or agree to unwritten ground rules just to keep the peace at a family gathering.
Yeah, for sure.
But very few of us have to do it while battling government security committees, dodging international paparazzi, and having our rooming assignments debated on national news broadcasts.
The scale of the pressure applied to every single movement they make is truly unprecedented.
So what does this all mean? We start by talking about planning a family dinner and having to sign an NDA just to walk through the front door. Harry and Meghan signed that metaphorical NDA, they followed the rigid rules, and they got their reunion.
They did.
The kids got to see their grandfather. But it leaves us with a massive question moving forward. If this strict media blackout and no cameras ultimatum is what successfully facilitated a peaceful reunion, this time could total public silence become the permanent, mandatory blueprint for all future interactions between the Sussexes and the monarchy?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Are we entering an era where the only way Harry can be a son is if he completely ceases to be a public figure while doing it?
The answer to that will likely define the next decade of royal history.
Something for all of us to mull over as we watch this saga continue to unfold. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.